Hi, welcome to another episode of Beginner's Guide to Web Design series. In this episode, we'll be looking at chapter 4 in the book, Writing Your First HTML Page. So, we'll be going to our text editor, Notepad++, which we set up in the previous video. I'll be using it to write our first HTML page. So quickly, let's get started. So, on my desktop, I have Notepad++ here. I'll just double click on it and then I'll have this blank page. When you are writing HTML code or when you are designing a website, it's recommended that you have a single folder where all your files related to that project is organized. What do I mean? I'll just quickly go to my desktop and then I will create a new folder. I'll just name it project-1. Notice that I'm using all lowercase, and where I have space, I'm using a dash. You can decide to use a dash or a lowercase like this. It's still okay. It's not recommended. It's a bad practice for you to name your folders, your project folders with space or uppercase words. So I would recommend you follow this convention. I will talk more about this in later videos. So I have this folder now where I hope to save any file related to the project we're working on. In the book, you'll notice I use a folder name called Dixar. It doesn't matter. You can use any name for your project folder. So once we create a folder where we intend to save our project files, I'll go back to my text editor. And then here I have a blank page here. But what I'll usually recommend you to do is you just go to File and then you select Save As. And then you go back and look for that folder you initially created. In my own case, it's project1, which is on my desktop. So I'll go to desktop, I'll go to project1, and then I will, here where it says file name, this is where you're supposed to write the name of the file that you are creating. Whenever you are writing HTML code, it's recommended that you name your first file index.html. I don't want to go too technical on this, but usually when you host your website on a live server, the index.html page is the first page your server recognizes or loads when somebody visits your website. But I don't want to go too advanced on this. You'll get to learn more about this in later videos. So quickly, let's create a file and we'll name it index.html. The .html here means this is the file extension. File extension is it signifies the kind of file you are creating. For example, you've used images that have file extensions like JPG or PNG. That's the type of file that you're dealing with. In this case, when you're writing HTML, .html is the type of file that we are creating, and our browser recognizes such files and displays them accordingly. So we'll name our file index.html and then I'll click Save. Make sure you are in the right project folder where that you created for that particular project. So I'll click Save, and now we have index.html here, and then this is where we'll write our first HTML code. Now, to write your first HTML code, the first tag, HTML has to do with writing tags. We'll be writing lots of tags, and every tag you create, there will be a closing tag for it, as you see. Although some tags don't have closing tags, you get to know those tags, but for now, let's start with the ones that have closing tags. So quickly, on the root of your HTML, we'll write HTML like this, and then we will close it like this. Now, why did I do this? When you're writing HTML, whenever you create a tag, like I mentioned initially, you need to write a equivalent closing tag. And what differentiates an opening tag from a closing tag is the /, as you see here. So when you see a /, it means the opening tag, that's the closing tag for the initial tag you opened. That's what the / means. And if you write it properly in your Notepad++, you see that the opening tag and the closing tag are highlighted. So this is the root tag or the first tag we're creating when we're writing HTML. Then the next thing I'm going to do is I'll use tab. On your keyboard, you see the tab by the left hand side on your keyboard. So we tab and then we write another tag, and the next tag we'll be writing is the head tag like this, and then I'll close the head tag. I'll explain why I did this in another video. So the next thing we're going to do is inside our head tag, we'll be creating a title tag like this, and then I'll write the closing title tag like this, and in between the opening and closing title tag, I'll just write something like welcome to my first web page. And then outside of this opening and closing head tag, I'll come down here and then I'll write body like this, and then I'll close the body tag like this, and in between the body tag I'll write h1, and then I'll write something like welcome to project 1, and then I'll close the h1 tag, and then I'll go down here and then I'll write a p tag, and then I'll write something like this is my first web page like this. Now you may notice that in between this head tag, or most of the tags we created, you'll notice that the opening tag and the closing tag were mostly not on the same line, but in this case I wrote them on the same line. Why? Because I am not putting a text directly in between the opening and closing head tag. Whenever you have a tag that wraps another tag, it's recommended that you write them vertically, and while in the other way around, if you have tags that, for example, you'll be writing text in between it, it's okay to put them horizontally, like in the case here that we have for title. So the title tag is always going to be written within the head tag. It's not recommended that you put the title tag in between the body tag. And then there are tags that have specific locations that you can use in between in your HTML code. So you have to be mindful of those tags. But as you gradually practice HTML and CSS, you get to know better where to write some specific tags and where not to write some specific tags. So this is just a basic HTML file that we just created and some basic HTML code that we just wrote. We're going to see the output on our browser and see what does all these things mean that we just wrote. Another thing I want to draw your attention to is whenever you edit a file in Notepad++, you'll notice that you have this red icon here. It means you have a file that has not been saved. So when you use Ctrl Save on my keyboard, I'll write Ctrl Save, or you can just come here, File, and then write Save. Click Save here. Ctrl Save, and then you have the file saved. So once I save, the icon will change. Like I said, whenever you make any change, you see the icon changes to red. So we'll save it, and then how do we view the output of the code that we just wrote now? We'll go back to the folder where we saved our file, and then see the output by running it on a web browser. So I'll go back to my project 1 folder. I'll see this index.html file. As you can see, the file is on my own folder. Is showing the Google Chrome browser icon. It's because I set Google Chrome as my default browser, so yours may look different. It doesn't matter. So I'll right click on the file, and then I'll say open with Google Chrome, or I can just open it like this directly, and then good. We have our first HTML page. So you see, welcome to my first web page. This is the title that we wrote here in our text editor. This title here, this is where the title is displayed by default. So whenever you write a title, this is where you see such stuff. But in between your body tag, that's this body tag, whatever you write in between this body tag will be displayed in the main content of your browser. In this case, we have a header and we have a paragraph. So in upcoming videos, I'll be explaining some of the more basic stuffs for you on HTML tags. I'll be introducing you to new tags, how to apply those tags in your web page or the website you are designing, and you'll get to know how to put these things together to design a beautiful website. I believe you've learned something. Give this video a thumbs up if you've learned something, and don't forget to share this video and subscribe to our YouTube channel.